First of all, I have to say thank you very much for coming on a Friday afternoon after you've taught or been in a class all week. And I know it's rough, and I know there's 500,000 places you would rather be tonight. So thank you very much. We're going to try to cover a lot of information in 60 very short minutes. So if I go too fast or you miss something, please feel free to ask me after we're done, or email me, call me. Any of those things are great ways. I will send out an email with the PowerPoint and the notes that go along with it next week, so that you'll have a hard copy of it. All of the information for my contact and the school contacts will be involved in that. If you are not getting emails from me, there's a sheet that I just gave away somewhere. Email sheet back there. Please make sure that I have a current working email address for you. Okay? So hopefully, since you're here, you got the email about what we're doing. This is orientation for all cooperating mentor teachers and student teachers that are doing their fall practicum now and their student teaching in the spring. Okay? Everybody in the right place? Okay, this is who I am. I am Dee Bermudez, and I am the field coordinator for UMKC. Give you a little bit of background about me. I taught elementary, K, all the way up through 6 for 9 years. I taught special ed and gifted. I did a couple programs that were 3, 4, 5 student combinations. I did year-round education. I kind of covered everything but PE. I never taught PE. Then I became an administrator for a charter school, and then I was an administrator in a local elementary school here, which rounded it out about 20 years of education before I came to the university level. Now I get to see all of our graduating student teachers go off into the big world of teaching, and I have to say it's a little bit different perspective when you're looking at it from this side. So my goal this year is to make it a great experience for both of you. Because some of the things I hear all of the time are, I have a student teacher, I don't know what to do with them. We're going to solve that problem for you tonight. Or you're a student teacher, you don't know what to do. We're going to solve that problem too. So we have a couple things for you. There is a handbook that is posted on the web that gives you all the nuts and bolts. There is also a guidebook that was written specifically to answer, what do we do in August? What do we do in November? What do we do in January? All of those things. It is based on the intake standards. So if you follow it, you know that you have covered everything your student teacher and you as a student teacher are supposed to know by the time you get to May. Okay? The address for the website is up here. You can, how do I exit out of this, Brad?
Escape.
Okay. You can find it on our website. The easiest way, if you don't want to write down the website, is to type in field experience under the School of Education, and it will bring you to this page. If you look over on the right-hand side of the page, it says for student teaching, and it has a handbook. This will bring up the handbook. You can print it off if you want to, but it's 90 pages. And it tells you everything you want to know. It has all the appendix, the logs, the sheets, everything. There is a second one that is supposed to be posted, and I don't see it. That is the guidebook. Your guidebook is the one that breaks it down into months and subject areas. Whoops. So, those two things are on the web. I also emailed them out to you. If you want them as an attachment so you can save them on your hard drive and you did not get that email, just email me again and I will send those out to you. Okay? The guidebook, this is the first year we've used it. It has a ton of different ideas in it. You guys, please use that and give me feedback on it. Okay? We want to know if it works. We want to know if it was helpful. We want to know what wasn't included in there that you think really should be. Okay? So, look through it. August is already over, so you can kind of cram August into September if you haven't looked at it yet. Start with September, see where you are with it, see how you like it, give me some feedback on it. And if you find typos in it, tell me that too. We want to make it better. All right, your fall experience. TE 423 is the class that your student teacher will be taking right now, and it extends and goes through December. It is the practicum class, which is what got them into your regular classroom. Your meaning I'm talking to the mentor teachers, okay? What we want them to do is watch you do what you do best, and that is teach. That's build relationships with kids. That's getting kids engaged in learning. That's all of those things that you do naturally as a teacher, that you've done for years, that you're really good at. What we want them to do is see that, and we want you to verbalize how you got there. What do you do when you have kids that don't get it? What do you do to make sure you're differentiating? What do you do when you just know a kid's having a lousy day? All of those subjects, all of those things are things that we want you to pass on to them. Student teachers should be in classrooms 4 hours every week from now till December. We want them to have that steady, scheduled time in a classroom every week so that they start understanding the rhythm of the classroom, so they can start building the relationships with the students, so that they can get a little bit of background knowledge before they start in January and go into full-time teaching. Okay? Some of the students went in and spent a whole week at the beginning of August. The minimum requirement for the TE 423 is 60 hours. Some of them already have that. We don't want them to quit coming to class. We want them to be in your classroom every week so that they see that ebb and flow. You know that the kids you had in August are not the same kids that you see at the end of October, especially the day after Halloween, okay? Even for high schoolers, okay? We know that. We want them to experience that so they can see that it's a little bit different, and you have to adjust your teaching style, and you have to adjust your instructional methods, all of those things that go with a whole semester of teaching. We want them to experience what the kids are like when it becomes December 10th and they cannot stand to be in class anymore, and how you have to adjust for those kinds of things. Okay? When they have 2 snow days in a row, okay, and then come back. Okay? All of those things are what we want them to experience in the fall. We want them to have some opportunities to do one-on-one with kids. We want them to have opportunities to take a small group and read with them or coach them through or practice with a test. We want them to kind of experiment, maybe get up in front of the class and teach a lesson, maybe take half the class to the library and do something with them. We want them to get their feet wet, and we want them to do it every week, okay? So the easiest way to do that and the most beneficial way is to have scheduled times. If you kind of leave it up in the air and say come in whenever you want, we know what happens. Everything comes up, it's Friday, and you realize I didn't make it to class. Okay? So schedule the time in, have an agreed upon time and method, and then stick with that. We know stuff comes up. We know things get hairy at times. You can be flexible, but if you spend some time putting those pieces in place, it will be a much better experience for both of you. Okay? The hope is that you start developing those skills in your student teacher, and then all of a sudden you realize you're really depending on them to work with this group of kids, or to do this on Thursday, or this is really important, and if they don't show up, you know this, okay? That means it's a great relationship for everybody involved, okay? Our whole goal is for it to benefit your classroom students. And your, meaning the mentor teacher or the student teacher. The whole goal of being a teacher is what? To service the students, okay? To increase their engagement, to make them do something besides sit there like bumps on a log, okay? Which you guys are doing, so stop it. Okay? All right, so those are our goals for this fall semester, okay? Be involved, get them involved, make it meaningful. They have several assignments. Not that you have to do anything for the student teacher to get their assignments done, but just so you're aware of what their requirements are and why they're going to ask you some questions. Because they're going to ask a lot of questions, okay? They have some data collection and analysis of the school setting. So they're going to be asking questions about demographics, about the economic makeup of the school, different minority groups, maybe different housing options. What community opportunities are there for parents to be involved in, for teachers to be involved in? How does the community as a school come together and kind of make that work? Okay? So that's some of the data that we asked them to collect. They're also going to do a whole paper on analysis of instruction. Okay? What they're seeing, how does it work, what's the theory in it, what's the philosophy behind it, that kind of thing. If they can teach, that would be great. They can I can't talk. Analyze their own teaching. Okay? Self-reflection is a great teaching tool, so we want them to do that. And then there's an interview with a student in a classroom. So all of them have requirements. Some of them are content specific. So each of the syllabi are specific to what their content area is. Okay? They'll also have a school log. Okay? My advice is sign it weekly, so you're not in November going, did you come that week or not? I don't remember. Just do it as they come in, sign it, initial it, quick and easy. Then they have what's called a teacher work sample. Teacher work sample is a year-long process of collecting and verifying and documenting all of the things they need to know by the end of their student teaching experience. The one caution I will tell both student teachers and mentor teachers, you need to talk about it now. Because some of the assignments in the fall semester for that teacher work sample will be setting up the foundation for something they're going to teach in the spring. So if you are an English 10th grade person and you know that you always teach Romeo and Juliet in January and they're working on a lesson for Romeo and Juliet and they're expecting to teach in April, that's not going to work. So you'll need to adjust what their expectations are, your expectations, and figure out how all that's going to fit together. If your curriculum is set, and a lot of the districts have set curriculums to where you can't move things around, then you need to kind of look at the big long-range plan and figure out where you are going to be when you're full-time teaching and how that affects what you're going to teach with your teacher work sample. Okay? Again, the teacher work samples are content specific. So if you're an art major, it's going to be a little bit different than you're an English major. So those things will have to come together. Just communicate what that is. Okay? Student teachers, talk to your mentor teachers. Tell them what it comes up, what you're going to do, that kind of thing. Okay? And I realize I'm going really fast. So we will do questions. Okay. I even talk faster than my slides. Your teacher work sample, this is all the pieces that go into it. All right, university supervisors. These are people that are faculty and staff members here at the university that will be coming out to the classroom to support both of you, both the mentor teachers and the student teachers, okay? They are a huge wealth of knowledge. If you want to know anything, ask them, okay? Now, have I put enough pressure on you guys? Would everybody in the room that's serving as a university supervisor stand up for me? We hopefully will have time that you can meet with these guys afterwards. Yeah, well, you can't sit down yet. I'm still talking about you. Okay? So, in the very far back corner back here is Alice Reckley. She does foreign language. These five here, Larry, Stephen, Joe, and Rita, do a whole mixture of science or social studies, English, math. Did I skip anything? Science. You do science too? No, you don't do science. I didn't think so. Back in this far corner is one of our new staff members, Dr. and I'm going to kill your last name, aren't I? Metzger. Yes. And Christine Webster. And I thought we had one more here. Did I miss somebody? Christine does art. Oh, Stuart Phillips is in the very back. He's doing social studies. And Dr. Metzger is doing English. Okay? Now you can all sit down. All of them have taught. All of them have been a supervising teacher, so they have sat in both your seats. They all have a bazillion years of education experience, and they really know what it takes to make a great teacher. So ask your questions of them. In the fall, you will see them twice, once tonight. Once sometimes before December, they'll come out for just a classroom visit. Hi, how are you? Is everything going okay? What can we do for you? In the spring, they will come out for 4 visits. 2 will be informal, just kind of to get into the routine. You know, if there's things that you really need to work on, they'll let you know that up front. Ask any or answer any questions that you have for you, give you good ideas, give you a little pep talk. Then they will do a midterm evaluation and a final evaluation. Okay? They will be in collaboration with your mentor teacher to give you your final grade. Okay? So these are important people and you want to utilize them. If you have any issues at all, contact your university supervisor. If for some reason you can't get a hold of them, which is very unlikely, you can call me and I will get a hold of them for you. And for any reason, you can always just call me, email me. That's fine too. Okay, so evaluations, your formal and your midterm and your final will be online this year. That's a little bit different from last year, but it is going to be online. The links are not posted yet, so if you want to look at what the evaluation form looks like way ahead of time, I can send you a hard copy, but they're not on the web yet. Okay, January is when you will start full-time student teaching. The one thing that from here on out, your student teacher will always go by the district that you are placed in calendar, not UMKC's calendar. So whatever breaks and vacations the school district gets, that's what you get, not University of Missouri. Okay? So when your school district starts back in January, whether that's January 2nd, 3rd, 4th, that's when your student teacher starts full-time. And it is 16 weeks. The first couple weeks, we do expect you to gradually do the transition. A lot of that is based on where you and your student teacher are. Okay? If they've come for 20 hours every day for the last 16 weeks in the fall, then they're probably pretty ready to take over right away. Okay? If they did less than that, they might need a week or two to kind of get into the groove and kind of see how things are going and experiment and get their feet wet. Okay? First couple weeks, we do ask that they do some kind of teaching on their own. One class, one period, one subject, something, so that they get into that. Usually by the end of the second week, they're pretty much ready to go. Okay? By week 4, they need to be full-time full-time solo teaching on their own. Okay? We would like them to have as long and as much experience teaching full-time on their own as possible. Okay? Now I realize come the end of March, April, we've got MAP testing and all of those things. There are certain things, you know, they cannot administer the MAP test. They, meaning the student teacher. Okay? So during those times, it is the expectation that you are in control of the class again as the mentor teacher. But that you can plan for. Can they teach after MAP testing? Absolutely. You know, do we want them continuous in the classroom? Yes. Okay? They are yours until April 29th, or whatever that Friday is. Okay? Now, if we have snow days, and last year we had a lot of them, they created all kinds of havoc because no district was the same. For snow days, if school is canceled and teachers are not expected to go to school, neither are student teachers. Okay? So you don't have to go and be all by yourself. Okay? And you don't have to go shovel the sidewalks either. Okay? So, but if we miss more than 4 days for snow days, we do have to add them on to the end of the student teaching experience. Okay, so student teachers, do not get your flight to Tahiti on April 30th, okay? Give us a week or so just in case we have another nasty winter. So just know that more than 4 days, we're going to be adding those on to the end of the experience. Now, if your district does what some of them did last year and they take away President's Day or something like that and they make it as a regular day, then that counts. Okay? And you don't have to add it to the end. Whatever your district does, that's okay, but you have to kind of follow your district. Okay? And every district that we had last year did something different. So we had different end dates. I think I had 13 different end dates. So you just have to kind of keep track of them and figure out so that you have a total 16 weeks for your student teaching experience. Now, if you teach 15 out of the 16 weeks, that's awesome. You are going to be so totally ready for your own classroom and you're going to be so grateful for that experience. Okay? If you miss more than 4 days, you're going to need to come see me. If you're absent, you get the flu, somebody dies, you know, in a car wreck, something like that, we need to talk about how many days you have because there's a continuous teaching day requirement for your certification. Okay? And that's a really big deal. We don't want you to mess that up. So we can make some adjustments, but I need to know that pretty quick. Okay? At the end, especially if you are really working with students that need a lot of routine, please make sure that you do a gradual hand back to the mentor teacher. Don't just say, okay, it's the 20th and I'm never coming back again. Do some, you know, okay, you can have back this hour, you can have back that. So it's kind of the same as you did at the beginning, okay? Sometimes we get so wrapped up in, we as teachers, we forget that changing teachers is hard for some kids. You know, and some of them get really attached to the mentor teacher and they don't have a very good transition into the student teacher, and then they fall in love with the student teacher and oh my gosh, now I got to go back to the mentor teacher, and it just makes for craziness. So you don't want that. You have to kind of think all those things through. Okay. Wow, I talked really fast. What time is it here? Wow. Man. Okay. Student teaching. Friday, December 22nd. I know it's another Friday. Gross. But no, I want you to come the 22nd. Sorry, December 2nd. Yeah. We're going to do another meeting here at 5 o'clock. Friday afternoons is the only time our student teachers do not have classes. So that's why we figured it was about the only time that they could absolutely come. So on that afternoon, we are going to focus extremely intently on what needs to happen during the student teaching experience. By that time, you'll have a great working relationship between the two of you. You'll kind of have a gist of what you want to do for the next 16 weeks. You'll also know what problems are going to come up, what kind of things are going to be a hitch or, you know, some kind of questions that you're going to have. So we'll spend some time there doing more of the nuts and bolts and the transitions and how all of that is going to look for you. We'll also talk intensely about the evaluation, what the expectations are for the evaluations, what are the areas that are the easiest and hardest to do for the evaluation. There's several informal things. There's a form called Fitness to Teach that you'll fill out for every student, and that just kind of gives them a quick peek. Student teacher. Not for your students. No, just for the student teacher. So those are all the kinds of things that we're going to cover on December 2nd. Okay? All right. I really talked a lot faster than I thought I was going to, so we really flew through that. So we have lots of time for question and answers. What is it that I need to cover or need to answer for you guys?
Where can we find the guidebook? Because you said it's not there, but use it. You told us all the stuff that's in it. Where can we find it?
I emailed it to you.
The guidebook?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And
I got the 90-page handbook. The guidebook.
okay, then email me. She was asking where you get the guidebook. It should be up on the web any day, but if you do not have it in an email that I sent out, please email me and I will resend it to you. Okay? Does anybody have the sheet that has email at the top? Any other question?
Well, what's your plan for those working in elementary and
Oh, I'm glad you asked that. And that's really important. If you are a teacher or student teacher that is in music, art, or foreign language, you have a split placement because you do 8 of the 16 weeks in elementary and you do 8 of the weeks in secondary. So what you do is take all of this stuff in the guidebook and you kind of squish it, okay? Or you can divide it if you're really good at tracking what you've done and not done. But you really kind of want to look at the whole experience for both elementary and secondary. Okay, so for your 16 weeks in the fall, you have a little bit more leeway because you can hop from elementary to secondary in the same week. In your second 16 weeks in the spring, you won't be able to do that. Okay, that's the other thing with evaluations. For if you're doing an 8-week placement, you need to keep in mind that your midterm evaluations due at week 4, and that's really quick. So for your transition, you're only going to need 1 week, and you got to get them in there teaching. You have 8 weeks. The very bare minimum that they can solo teach in an 8-week placement is 4. Would rather have them do 6. That only leaves you a week at one end and the next end. So for those of you that are doing K-12 certification, it's kind of a tap dance, but it can be done. You just have to kind of plan for it.
When will we know? Our girls haven't been placed yet in their elementary. When will we know that placement? The time frame, they start in January, they start in March.
For elementary, and I'm taking, you're doing foreign language, because those are our only ones that aren't placed. Yeah. As soon as we can find them a placement. They're doing their high school now, so they can do their elementary from October to December, and then they can do elementary from January to March if they want to. Or they can go back and do high school first and elementary second. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
As long as they have both. Yes, it is. Yes.
for signing up for or getting into the school, then we have to take that fingerprint thing. Do we, if it comes up in December, do we have to do it again? In
No,
December?
she's asking about the fingerprint clearance. If you did your fingerprint clearance, it is good for 1 complete calendar year. So if you did it in March, you're good all the way till March. And then if you're in a school, they let you finish out the year. They won't make you go do it in March. But
So I did it in December. Would I have to do it again in January then? Since I'm not technically teaching yet?
let me ask, because it might depend on your school district. Usually once you've in your placement and you've been there, then they're okay to let you finish out the school year. Okay? Email me and I'll find out for you. Okay?
I just want to double check to make sure. You talked about the K through 12, the dual majors, it's the same thing. We're dividing our time up equally.
Yes. If you are middle school and you're doing language arts and science, or language arts and math, then you have to do the same thing with the time schedule. Cut it in half. You have 8 weeks in math placement, you have 8 weeks in science. Okay? Your midterms will be at 4 weeks, 4 weeks. So you have to just kind of squish everything in there. And I will give you forewarning, if we have lots of snow days in your first placement, then we have to do some juggling. Keep in mind, you're not just juggling your schedule, you're also juggling the second placement schedule. So you have to kind of look at the whole picture, because if you extend your time in your first placement by 3 or 4 days, that may throw off what's planned for the second placement. So it's kind of amazing. All of you who have a placement have had at least 5 people involved in your placement. Some as many as 10. Okay? And when you take and you look at that and try to shift anything, it really does have a domino effect. So we want it to work as smoothly as possible, but with the best for the students in mind. Also, those of you who are doing a split placement, the other thing you need to look at are where is a breaking point that makes sense, okay? You don't want to leave 3 days before the end of a unit when you can finish out the unit and then just start your next placement in a place where it makes sense, okay? So the dates that I gave you are a little bit flexible, okay? So we want them to be meaningful. You know, we don't want you to just walk out the door because that's the day we put, okay? I'll get you in just a second. We have one more, yeah.
If our cooperating teacher couldn't be here tonight, what do they do? Can we get you the contracts? Or is that their responsibility?
That's their responsibility. You know, if they want to get paid the thousands and thousands of dollars that contract is worth, they'll get it to us. No. Most of them have gotten several emails from me. Those of you who have a cooperating teacher that isn't here, just check and make sure they are getting emails from me. We are going to try to have the video up so they can watch it. I will also send them information that we've covered tonight, the notes from the PowerPoint, as much information as we can get to them. And honestly, they can call me anytime, okay? They can call, they can email, they can come by. Whatever way we can get information out to people to use it, that's what we want to do. You had a question?
I'm just curious if there's an evaluation during first semester.
Yes and no. It's not a formal evaluation where they fill out a form and send it in, but there's emails and feedbacks and check-in, and your university supervisors will ask questions about how's it going and that kind of thing. It's very informal in your first one. Most of the evaluative part of the fall semester happens in the classroom, because there's a direct connection between their practicum, what they're doing in the field with you guys, and what happens in their classroom when they meet with their professors, okay? In the springtime, you don't have that because they don't have class. They have capstone, which is like a seminar. It's like where they meet to talk about what's going on with the student teaching experience, but it's a different type of thing. It's not a regular course like they have in the fall. Does that make sense? Yeah.
How much of the 16 weeks, I know it's different from every college where they come from, do you want them in the classroom without us?
Ideally, as much as possible. If they could get, 10, 12 weeks solo completely on their own without you in there, that would be fabulous. Okay? Sometimes with the state testing, you can't quite get that much, and sometimes it has to be you're kind of in there and then back out, that kind of thing. But really, as much as you can possibly do. Some of you have certain classes where there's a special ed teacher that goes in and does class within a class, or you co-teach, that kind of thing. All of those are experiences we want our student teachers to have. So as many of the things that you as a teacher would normally do, we want them to experience that. The absolute, and research proves this, the better experience you have as a student teacher, the better time you have that first year. And that's why we encourage them to go into the classroom the first week of school, even before they had to come back for university classes. Because if you walk into a classroom and you've never set up a classroom or never seen the chaos of that first week, yeah, you guys laugh because it's like, I remember what that's like. Oh my gosh, I almost died. Yeah, so we want them to have that. Same with you know, having another adult in your classroom can be a little spooky. You know, it's like you're used to doing your own thing, and all of a sudden you've got this special ed teacher that's in there full time, and she's co-teaching and doing different things, and it's like, ugh, you know. So some of those experiences are really nice to have when you're young and, you know, you're still figuring it out so that you know how to do it when you're on your own. Anything else? Yeah.
As far as the evaluations that we're going to be having in the spring, will we know about the dates that we're going to be getting evaluated, and how are those dates be chosen?
For a 16-week placement, we just go pick a date in week 8, and then I send that out for you. If you have an 8-week placement, we go to week 4. You know, and it's not cut hard in stone. If you have a really rough week coming up and you want to do your evaluation the week before that or the week after that, that's fine too. Somewhere in the middle. What we don't want is for you to do the midterm evaluation 2 weeks before the end, because then there's no time to improve. The evaluation and really is truly is, what are the things that I can improve on? What are the things that I need to fix or make better or learn how to do before I get to the end of my student teaching placement? Okay? Because that's when you want to be able to do it. You want to make your mistakes now when somebody can say, this is how to fix it, before you get into your first year of teaching and you're totally on your own and don't know what to do.
My mentor teacher is teaching one AP course. So do I just not teach that course at the end of the day? Or do I go ahead? I mean, I can't teach it once I'm out.
That is, and it's my answer is going to be different for every person that asks me that, because different districts have different requirements. Some districts allow co-teaching. So if you co-teach during that hour and truly co-teach, not just hang out in the back of the classroom, then that's great. If it's something that you want to go to another teacher's classroom and just teach for that 1 hour, we can arrange that too. So there's different options. Several of the districts have spent a lot of time training their teachers to co-teach. They've put in place special education teams where they are full-time co-teaching in classrooms. They're finding out that there's a lot of research that supports a true co-teaching environment. And co-teaching is both teachers teach equally, plan equally. They may rotate who's leading and who's supporting. They may divide the class and do separate things at the same time, but both teachers are fully responsible for the classroom, okay? In those kinds of situations, for AP classes, we find that works really well, if the district is comfortable with that, okay? And we have 3 that totally support that, okay? And I'm glad you asked that question, because if you have instances like that, that you are not teaching a full day load, I need to know that. Because if you get to the end of your student teaching and you have only taught 4 hours out of the day, you will not get certified. Okay? A full teaching load depends on how your district perceives it. If you have 7 periods of day and most normal teachers in the district teach 5 periods and have 2 plannings, that's what you need to do. 5 periods with 2 planning. If you're with a cooperating teacher that has a special contract that does 2 hours of administrative work and only teaches 3 hours, you can't do that. Okay? You have to do a full teaching load. If they're doing block schedules and the normal is teach 2 blocks, have 1 block to plan, then that's what you need to do. Okay? And some of them have different schedules on different days. They have an A-B day. Okay? So there's all kinds of configurations, but what student teachers need is a full-time teaching load for what your district requirements are.
If we have like a special, like an extra duty, like I have to do a study hall for 6 weeks on every other day on my plan, will he need to do that? Wow.
He does what you do.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, did everybody hear that? She said if you have a special duty, that's part of your teaching requirement. Now, if you get paid extra for doing it, the student teacher doesn't have to do it, okay? But if it's within your teaching contract, if you have lunch duty, they have lunch duty. They have parking lot patrol, they get to go do parking lot patrol. Whatever you do, they get to do, okay? Yeah.
Let us say that this first semester I do not have a full teaching load, but second semester I do, and that will be the semester she teaches. That will be okay.
That's totally fine.
Second question, what happens if I'm teaching another subject in addition to the content area, like, for example, art and computers? Does that count for Monica? If she teaches computer as well?
Is it just one class?
I'm going to look very closely at second semester and then get back with you,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
they've got me split.
Let me know that.
Thank you.
What she asked was if this first semester you're not teaching a full teaching load, is that okay? Yes, because they only have to do 4 hours each week, okay? So probably you'll pick the 4 hours that you're teaching the content area. For second semester, if you're teaching a split, like Kim is teaching art and computers, Monica is getting certified in art. Monica needs to teach art the whole time, so we'll find out. If it's one class, it's probably okay. You know, if it's half and half, we might have to look at shifting some placements around. Okay?
I have a question about when teachers leave to go for like meetings within the district, would I go with that teacher and go with them and they would have a substitute for the class period until we get back, or how would that work?
If it's something that's within the regular teaching contract, meaning I'm a social studies teacher, I'm going to go to a district social studies meeting, the student teacher goes with, okay? If I'm a social studies teacher and district wants me to go for extra training to be an instructional coach, then the student teacher could stay in the classroom, okay? So if it's within their content area and it would help them see what you get to be trained as a real teacher, I would say let them have that experience. If it's something totally, you know, not related to what they're doing, then let them stay in the classroom, okay? And I got 3 or 4 hands. We'll start here and go across this.
We're not allowed to be alone in the classroom this semester. Is that
Not
right?
in the fall semester, okay? We'd really like for you to get a little more experience before you're taking over, okay? Now, if the mentor teacher steps out for 5 or 10 minutes, that's okay. You know, that's not a big deal.
My question kind of piggyback on the first. What about in services or anything like that? Are student teachers required to go to that, or?
During the spring semester, yes. You do exactly what...
Parent-teacher conferences?
Yes. Okay? You do exactly what your cooperating teacher does. Okay?
I would like to encourage also her to observe other classes, other teachers, that count as part of her observation hours in the fall.
Absolutely. Yep. If you as the classroom teacher have some great teachers in your buildings and you want them to go and watch somebody because of a particular style or instructional method or something like that, that's absolutely okay. Okay? And especially at the end of the student teaching when they've really gotten to where they understand what their teaching style is going to be like in that, and they want to observe a couple different people, that's totally fine. Yep. And we had a question someplace over here. Did you have a question? I did? Okay. Oh, good. All right. So there's lots of things that will come up. You guys, please don't hesitate to ask. Email really and truly is the easiest way to get a hold of me. I'm pretty quick about answering emails most of the time. You can certainly call. For those of you who have fellow teachers in the building that didn't get to come tonight, or have mentor teachers that didn't get to come tonight, just please communicate that if they are not getting emails from me, to let me know that. Okay? Does anybody else have any questions at all? Anybody have a contract they did not get turned in? Oh, a whole bunch. Okay.